Very straightforward.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's gonna. Got to get rid of that, don't I? When you do it, do you normally close down the page?
I don't remember.
I'm gonna have to. Let's look. So it keeps going. Okay, that seems to be working. Right, good evening, everybody. I hope you're receiving us in YouTube land, and we'll be recording this for anybody that hasn't been able to pick up because we've had to change because of Gremlins. Good old Mr. Facebook didn't want to work tonight, so we're on YouTube. But can I introduce you to, please, Mr. Darren Lawrence?
Hi there.
We'll soon be joined by Rosie Ball, whose job is, as I'm reliably told, to keep an eye on me. And December's hardest working man, Mr. David Ford, who's been touring with Michelle Stoddart, Duke Special, his own gigs, and has just come out of doing Milk and Cookies, a massive charity fundraiser. And that's where I'm going to try and start. I'm just going to do a little bit of video work to show one of the songs, if I can get this to work. This was my highlight of the weekend, David. Friends and I wanted to share as well, saying I've been doing lots of events at Eastbourne, but we had a magical moment the other day where two groups got together, and this is what happened.
Drew, take it away. Pentacle drummers, join in. Big demo, do you want to have a go?
So that's what we've been up to this last month. And just a quick story behind that before we start the beer. When the band arrived on a really wet day, there was very little room in, and I was joking about why didn't you bring the brass section, because there was absolutely no room to put them. And then the drummers turned up, and I said, "Do you mind just joining in with this band?" In my mind, I'm picturing Tusk, David. I'm picturing these people going the ba 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 bum bum, but it was wonderful. Both of them really loved it. And for the first time in my time, I got something in Eastbourne that really hit my heart. Rather than, I love the people I work with, don't get me wrong, but that was as close to the music that I like personally, as well as obviously what I normally work with. So that's what I've been doing.
Lovely. Yeah, there is something. I mean, I suppose very similar. Musicians intermingling and playing with each other is a wonderful thing. I can't believe I came to it relatively late in life. Obviously, having played in bands with other people, but the idea of actually having people who don't always work together coming together with all the experience and the differences that they bring together is a wonderful thing. I should point out that the clip you played of us doing Wicked Game from Bush Hall is significant because that song wasn't on the set list. It was chosen at random a few minutes before we played it, because that's one of the silly things we do. And so usually what happens is I have the duration of the interval to learn a song to play. And that song came up, and I sort of knew it well enough to think I could probably bust my way through it. But I said to the rest of the band, anyone fancy joining me on this? And absolutely everyone was like, yeah, let's all do it. And so everyone with I mean, actually zero rehearsal, and having never played the song before, we played what wasn't the worst version, I thought.
It's actually quite a tough song to sing, I think, because of the low tones in it as well. To be able to be clear and heard on the low tones and then soar to the Wicked Game. It's not an easy song to sing.
Yeah, I am fortunate in that I'm crazy rangy in the voice. Like I can sing, for a dude, I can sing incredibly high. And if anything, I was a bit disappointed because the really high note in that song in the chorus, because it was like towards the end of the gig, by that point I'd yelled so much I'd lost the falsetto tone in my voice, so it just wasn't there. So I had to sing it full voice, which wasn't ideal, but I only found that out when I opened my mouth to sing the chorus and found that the note wasn't there. But that happens sometimes.
In front of a few other people. Hey, Rosie. Anyway, Darren, would you like to start for the first beer, please, sir?
Please.
Yeah. And also, can you go into length, because this has been all your choices. So not just tell us about each beer, but why you particularly chose them.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Yeah, this is a beer from good old Sierra Nevada, based in California in Chico. And yeah, one of the things which struck a chord with me recently was the loss in America of the Anchor brewery, best known for Anchor Steam Ale, different part of America. But I think one of the cool things about America is some of its heritage brands, and Anchor was one of those. And it was, unfortunately, when it was taken over, a little bit misused, and it might bounce back, who knows. But Sierra Nevada is definitely, for me, one of those real homegrown talents that's been going for, I think, 43 years now. And some companies make a lot of how they started from nothing and work their way up, but this is so true with Sierra Nevada. Two guys, homebrewers, started it up on cobbled together dairy kit, and you can look at photos on Google. It really was a super rustic little affair. And they've just, I don't know, they just kind of clicked, and they made amazing beer from day one, and they still make amazing beer. And Celebration Ale is one of those originals, almost from I think they made it a year after they set up, so it's like 42 years old. Not the beer they make a fresh batch every year, obviously, but the Celebration Ale has a special place in my heart, not just because of the nice little log cabin on the label, which appeals to my corny Christmas sense of fun, but it's always been a good beer. And I got a decent amount of this to try, and my palate's been a bit off where I've been a bit under the weather. So I now feel 100%, and I hope it's as good as I remember, but I'm really excited to see what other people think of it, because it's a good old kind of West Coasty kind of IPA, good colour to it. Obviously the hops are picked by the team, and then they pretty much the cold chain is like, right, we want those hops, yep, grab the hops back to the brewery in about 3 days. And so it really is a good quality fresh hop IPA. And let's hope it still is, because hopefully I'm feeling a bit better now and see what's going on.
It's much sharper than IPAs I'm used to.
Also, Rose is a stout girl by nature, This is not
That's
her.
not no way to talk about your daughter.
He didn't call me a porter, at least.
But Rose is a stout girl by nature. She doesn't like hoppy beers, but I think this has got more depth to it. It's almost like a NEPA to me, Darren, or double IPA. And is it 6.8%? Is it?
Yes, 6.8 as far as I'm aware. Yeah, and it's definitely in that West Coast mold where you actually, obviously the colour is a bit of a giveaway, but there's also a nice touch of caramel on there that ties in really nicely with the piney resins of the hops. And quite old school hops. You know, you can get quite geeky about hops and look at, and you know, like you've got Cascade, Centennial, and Chinhook, very cool named American hops. But these were like the kind of grandfathers. You know, there's so many different kind of radical hops these days, but these are still like the old quality workhorses that still give you that lovely citrus and tropical, sometimes grapefruit flavors. And yeah, they're really working hard in this beer. And now my palate's all good. Yeah, I still really appreciate this beer. And yeah, like Rosie says, it's got a bitterness on the back that really cuts through, whereas opposed to some of the bigger, chunkier IPAs of the modern, like the hazies and stuff like that, they're more flabby and like a kind of duvet. This is more of a kind of sharp, kind of not as a nice little sharp crack at the end. I really quite like it.
So David, over to you.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, when I saw this in the bag, I was overjoyed because I love Sierra Nevada. It's like an old friend. Usually, you know, the classic green can is my one, and I got into it when I would be touring a lot in America, and obviously I had that classic British person thing of like, oh, American beer's rubbish. It's all Coors Light. You know, essentially it's fizzy water with like a distant hint of some kind of beer-esque flavoring. And I don't know, I guess I must have been in California and had a Sierra Nevada. It was like, that is the best beer I've ever had in my whole life. It's just so joyously flavoursome in a way that back then, I mean this is maybe like 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
In a way that I hadn't had that in British beers. I suppose back home I was still either drinking like lager or Guinness. And yeah, so Sierra Nevada was a real, like, it was the first time I'd ever had that sort of American hoppy craft beer type, you know, IPA flavored beer, and I loved it from the first minute. But that was the first one I'd ever had, and this is wonderful because it tastes like Sierra Nevada beer. It's got that same familiar, you know, friendly hug in a can, but it's just got a bit more, like you say, it's got that, it means a bit more business. It's got a bit more muscle to it, and it's got that bitterness to it, but it is absolutely delicious. I'm enjoying it incredibly.
So I get the caramel malt, which you wouldn't normally get in an IPA, and I think that the sharpness Rose is talking about is a bitter finish, which you don't always get as much in an IPA. But yeah, there's a richness to it and a depth to it. I think this is gorgeous. Also, it's a fireside warmer. It's one, if you were drinking, I think you'd feel like you were sitting by a fireside. It brings a little bit of warmth here.
Yeah,
see, definitely. That's interesting because I tend to ruminate towards certain beers and certain environments. So I won't drink a lager, but if I am in somewhere where it's 40 degrees, it's more like water at that point, isn't it? So I wouldn't naturally associate any American beer with that warmth sort of experience, because
even this one,
I like the peppiness to it, but I feel like after I have a mouthful, I've almost forgotten the taste. Yeah. It's not a long-lasting flavour for me.
Yeah. Well, we've got other beers for you to try, but for me, this is a winner. It's a delightful beer, and I don't see it being too hoppy because I like this style of beer. I'm a NEPA double IPA man by nature, and whereas some might try it and find it too hoppy from word go, I don't.
Yeah, no, but again, the Sierra Nevada just appeals to my corny nostalgia side, which is probably about 99% of me. You know, they've never changed their logo. The bottle, well, this used to be in bottle, and obviously they use cans quite a bit these days. But the beer design's the same, and they just stick to that image. And I think one of the things, going back to poor old Anchor Brewery in America,
which Rose and I've been to, by the way.
Yeah, we got very drunk there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, again, you know, they it was a lovely heritage brand which had the lovely quaint imagery around it, but then it was taken over, and one of the first things to go was that nice iconic look, and they tried to make it look a bit more contemporary, and kind of failed. And then and that's when the trouble started, really. But Sierra Nevada, I mean, I can't imagine how many offers they must have had over the years to be taken over or bought out, but it's still independent, you know, family owned and argued over is their motto. And it just, yeah, it always makes, you know, that's that sad beer kind of part of me. Always, it's seeing a Sierra Nevada beer on the shelves always brings up a smile, because you know it's going to be a good beer, no matter how many miles it's tried. And you'll see the pale ale, like David mentioned, is in loads of outlets, and it's always good and always the same, really, which is a feat in itself.
I'm going to bring you back though to the symmetry, because you're talking about being independent, being able to produce what you want, not being told what to do. That's what an artist like David does for a living, because he and others I've known have chosen that path of just literally producing what they want and keeping their credibility, and then turning out the good stuff, you know, rather than writing pop songs or public pleasers. And I'm saying that now because that's a later theme. But yeah, definitely a winner for me.
Amen.
Right. So before we ask you to do the first song, I want to talk about 2023 a little bit, in 2024. For me personally, and with my Hive event stage, it was the most successful year I've done. About 25 events this year, including one day where we did the Rye Festival. We had 3 different stages going. But at the same point, the pressure gave me such anxiety. I've lost about 10 kilos in weight through anxiety, because I care about these events and do them. And it got me thinking about Christmas, because it's a lovely time of year, but it's also a time of year where people do struggle a bit. And I know, David, something happened to you many years ago, which is covered in your wonderful book. If I definitely can sit here. And that's why I asked you to do the song Philadelphia. But did you want to talk about that at all? Or there's a song?
Yeah, happy to. I've much like Sierra Nevada beer. I always took great comfort from the city of Philadelphia in America since I first started touring over there. The first gig I ever did in Philadelphia, I was at a venue called World Cafe Live, which is still my favorite music venue anywhere in the entire world. And I was opening for Katie Tunstall there, and it was just a brilliant gig. I had a half-hour opening slot, and it just went so well, and the audience like really took to me in a way that they never had like anywhere in the world before that. It was I just felt this immediate sort of connection with that audience, and thought that was weird. And then the next time I came to town, I think I was playing at a different venue, opening for someone else, and like the same thing happened. It was like same songs, you know, different band, different audience, but they just seem to really be very warm and appreciative, like to me, and I felt really sort of welcomed and embraced by them. And it just got to the point where every time I went to Philadelphia, it was just the best gig I'd ever had. And it's never been the case when I've toured in America that the Philadelphia gig hasn't been the best gig. And kind of for that reason, I just kind of really fell for the city and felt sort of supported by it. Anyway, some years later, I was playing a show in Philadelphia, and things weren't going that well for me. That afternoon, I received a telephone call to say that my grandmother had a fall, and they thought that she was very likely not going to survive. And I was my grandmother's she was the patriarch of our family, very much like the leader, the big presence of our family, and it was, you know, and I felt like I should be home, but I had, you know, I had some more shows to play, and there wasn't anything I could do, and like, so I was just in this weird place, like my head just wasn't in the show that night, and I just couldn't concentrate on the gig when I was playing it, I just I ended up sort of apologizing to the audience and then just sort of explaining, because it was Philadelphia. I felt like, sorry, usually these gigs are the best ones. And I just spent the whole gig just thinking about my grandmother and how, like, she bought me my first, like, electric keyboard when I was a child that I learned music on, and she paid for me to have like a couple of lessons, and then I inherited some money from some relative of hers died, and she gave me some money, and that's what bought my first guitar. And like, it just occurred to me that she was actually central to my becoming a musician. And then here I was, like, singing my songs all these years later, and I just started crying, like, in the middle of a gig. And then this fella just came up from the back of the room to the front and just gave me a huge hug, like, during the gig. And I just wept on his shoulder for a bit. And then I think, I stumbled my way through the end of the gig. And it wasn't a good show. I mean, it was very strange. When I came out to pack up at the end of the night, on my piano, there was this stack of these, like, beer mats. And there were hundreds of them. Like, everyone in the place just written me these little notes of support and love and stuff. And so that's kind of Philadelphia, like, really just a beautiful place. Anyway, so I wrote a song about Philadelphia and its inability to let me have a bad night.
And before you play it, the message from us really is, if you're having a rough time, just reach out to a friend. And Darren, thank you, because through my rough time, I've been texting Darren a lot and talking about being stressed and stuff. And to have someone there at the end of the phone, as well as your family, is wonderful. So, Darren, this song is dedicated to you, sir, for being a dear friend.
Oh, that's all right. Thanks, mate.
All right. Across the old Delaware I fell apart, in the city of brotherly love. The winter bit hard through the holes in my jacket. My thoughts lean toward giving up. See, I've been a wanderer, and it's been some time since I found somewhere I could belong. Till the cold wind on Walnut Street whistled in the trees. It sounded to me like a song. It said, when you're down and you're out, don't remember the feeling of joy. You can lean on me, brother, I won't let you fall. Not while I'm Philadelphia boy. Oh Lord, not while I'm a Philadelphia boy. I took a walk through the city, bumped shoulders with strangers, all sinners, the saints and the thieves. Looked in faces befitting a cynical age we so desperately want to believe. When I needed a doctor, a brother and a friend, turned out I wasn't so far from my home. Sweet Philadelphia opened her arms, took me in like I was one of her own. Said, when you're down and you're out, don't remember the feeling of joy. You can lean on me, brother, I won't let you fall. Not while I'm a Philadelphia boy. Oh Lord, not while I'm a Philadelphia boy. Just around or in need of a home, and a brother who won't let me go. Benny Franklin's an old friend, you know. It's not just some face on $100 bill. He's my old Philadelphia boy. Oh Lord, he's a good old Philadelphia boy. No, I wasn't brought up Christian, but I was raised good. I never looked to no heavens above. My wretched old soul is in good hands tonight, in the city of brotherly love. So I'll be out for a slice of Lorenzo's tonight, with a poker chip tied in my hand. If you need a ride, I'll be parked right outside. If you need a brother, brother, I'm your man. 'Cause when you're down and you're out and don't remember the feeling of joy, you can lean on me, brother, I won't let you fall. Not while I'm a Philadelphia boy. Oh Lord, not while I'm a Philadelphia boy. Oh Lord, not while I'm a Philadelphia boy.
Thank you, David.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
Right, Darren, beer number 2. And I need to warn you, Rosie, there may be a touch of cinnamon in this one. And
Yes.
also, do you want to get your cake out as well?
Oh.
Yeah, I did look at it. I was like, are you trying to poison me? But let's see how I go. It's an intolerance, not a allergy.
So Darren, over to you, sir.
Yeah, the Christmas theme continues in a bit more of a bolder way with good old Brew York, and we often feature Brew York on the Christmas Beercast because they really, really often nail it. But yeah, there was an unfortunate incident in the last Beercast involving a particular beer which was flavoured and a bit of a lucky dip, which I still won't live down until, I don't know, it'll be a long, long time. But yeah, so it's made me more cautious, and certainly Brew York. I think obviously there's Fairy Tale and Nightmare, and Nightmare is the bigger one. And Nightmare, I ordered in bulk and thinking, yeah, this is the one we're going to use, and cracked the can open about a month ago, and it was incredibly heavily spiced, really, really big domination. And so I still have 5 cans of that in the fridge, but I persevered and bought Fairy Tale because I do love a bit of Brew York. And it was a nicer, softer expression. The ABV obviously is toned down. And in terms of like being a milk stout, it's quite light. And the little Christmas kind of spices and everything peek through a little bit more as opposed to dominate the beer. Obviously, poor old Rosie, I didn't know her intolerance taste-wise for spice. Hopefully it's not too spicy for her in that sense, but it's just a lot more balanced. I thought in terms of its whole flavour profile, but I'll see what you guys think because yeah, I think it's a nice little drinkable seasonal alternative. But yeah, see what you think.
Just a noted, Benny. I'm very good at spice. Dad's the one who struggles. It's just cinnamon I tend to vomit quite a lot from.
Oh dear.
And we also have Sasha's Christmas cake, which she won't have it, but last year everybody got a bit bar me, so I made damn sure I got some this year. So try the beer first and then try the Christmas cake and see what you think.
It does actually list cinnamon as an ingredient, Rosie.
I just had a little bit. It's okay. I'm not sure why we're pairing it with cake because that's a very sweet beer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why you put it with cake, because the sweetnesses go with each other.
I've got to say, it smells incredible. This beer smells like how I want to smell, like every day. Just
that roll-on scent.
They make this in like a shower gel or a body lotion. I'm buying that.
Yeah.
Well, an Old Spice.
Yeah.
For me, I definitely get the spices. There's not the. I mean, we're used to massive beers, aren't we, Darren? And this one's a bit more delicate, which I don't mind either. But yes, the spices are quite subtle in it. I definitely get the cinnamon, and it's kind of a stolony beer, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, and you can definitely the milk stout presence from the lactose is coming through with that little bit of kind of almost gummy vanilla and marshmallow, whereas the bigger version of this, the spices just really dominate, cut through, and add a little bit too much of a harsh bitterness on the back, whereas this one finishes a bit more kind of pillowy and soft. And yeah, it's just more of a nice expression of a good milk stout with a kind of Christmassy, stolony kind of Christmas cakey twist.
This is a beer that you can actually drink. I think often I find with these Christmassy ones, like they just go way too far, and it's the kind of beer you could stand a spoon up in, and it's like way like overly syrupy. Whereas they've actually made this, a strength that is drinkable, and it's not nothing's overpowering in there. It's it's very drinkable, and also like often they come in the can this size. What is it? The 440 size can, or is it even 500? I'm not sure. Anyway, and I find myself going like, no one's drinking a whole can of that. You're mad. They should come in little tiny stubby ones. But this one, I look at that can and think, oh, that's achievable. We can make this happen. It's very pleasant.
It is very pleasant. And the cake?
Oh,
the
cake
is very pleasant.
Cake's great.
The cake's phenomenal.
Now I don't like fruit cake at all, but I'm enjoying this cake. I ate last year's cake with a sense of trepidation and found it to be very enjoyable indeed. So I'm back in again for this one.
I was a bit disturbed by how Gary tore into the marzipan last year, because remember he's a bit of a marzipan man, wasn't he?
Yeah, he got very passionate about the marzipan. I see. I don't like fruitcake and I don't like marzipan, and I'm not crazy about white icing either. And yet, it's like a Negroni. Like I don't like gin or Campari or vermouth, but you put them together. This is the Negroni of cake.
That's interesting. Is there any beers out there that any of you say on sort of picture you wouldn't like? Like it's like a hoppy beer, it's a citrusy beer, it's a flavoured beer, but then you drunk it and it's actually changed your expectations.
Well, Darren, over to you first.
Yeah,
What
that's a
beer
really
have you got in, Darren, where you really had trepidations and then been wowed by it. Go on.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I mean, me and my friend Ben were well into our cups on a bit of a taproom tour a couple of weeks ago, and we stumbled across a can in a fridge at a local taproom, and it was by a brewery called Vault City, a Scottish producer who specialise in sour beers, crazy concoctions, all kinds of stuff goes on. And I don't know if you're familiar with the drink Buckfast or Buckfast Abbey.
Oh, it's Belfast champagne.
Yeah. The awful tonic wine, apparently made by a religious order.
I do hope Pete Wilson's not watching that, because he would shoot you for saying that.
The trapeze
I've actually never had Buckfast.
No, this is it. And I've only heard of the legend. And this producer, Vault City, took Buckfast and essentially made a kind of a sour kind of hybrid, using that as a kind of base almost. And it was just, I don't know, the weirdest beer I've ever tried. Certainly this year, just really weirdly. The smell was terrible, like really weirdly kind of herbal and tonicy. It was very strange. But then you took a sip, and it was actually oddly, like, actually David hit on the point there. Really, everything kind of weirdly come together, and it was like oddly kind of sharp, sweet, sour, everything rolled together, and it was like, oh, actually, if you don't smell it, this beer is actually quite nice. And it was so weird. It was actually kind of wonderful. And luckily we were sharing it. I don't think we could have rolled through a whole big 40 can solo. But yeah, that was the one for me. Something so weird, it actually worked.
Not a beer, but a wine. So if you buy an Australian Riesling, it smells of diesel petrol, which should be enough to put anybody off. And the wine tastes wonderful. So I don't know a beer but certainly an Australian Riesling wine. And when you say it smells of diesel petrol, it actually smells of diesel petrol, not a bit like it. So you imagine you think you're drinking petrol, and it's beautiful.
That's intriguing. But for my part, I've always, whenever I've tried like a sour beer, I always find myself going, "What the hell is the point of that? Like, no one wants to drink that." And then I wish I could remember what it was, but I had a sour one that all made sense. It was like I wish I remembered more about it, but I once had a sour beer that was just like delicious. It was like, you know, rhubarb crumble or something. It was wonderful. But
And Rosie, you asked the question, and the answers for you?
It's not a beer, but I've never enjoyed cider. I don't like fruity things in my alcohol. But I had in France a Breton cidre, and if you have it with the right food, it's not sharp, it's not overly sweet, it's not tangy. It's a very like warm mouthfeel, very well rounded. It's almost too drinkable, as in like you could have it for breakfast with your food. It was that sort of drink.
I think you're right in occasion. I think occasion has a lot to do with it. Like I don't really enjoy lager anymore. Like I did as a younger man. But if you're on a somewhere pleasant with friends, and like you were in France, and you have those little French stubby beers, they're just like are like
that's acceptable.
€5 for 100 bottles of it. They are incredible in the right setting. Like I haven't been for a long time, but we used to go skiing before being parents, Emma and I. And after you come out of the shower after you've been skiing, and you open up a tiny French crappy stubby beer off the frozen balcony, few things more enjoyable in this whole world. Same thing goes for, I find, like Italian lagers. Like a Moretti or something like that. If you're actually out having an Italian meal, one of those, it goes so well. I don't know how they do it, but like if you just have one, then it's like, it's just ordinary lager. But you have that with a nice pizza, and like it's magnificent.
Actually, you had me there, because when I was in Sicily, I had I think it was a lager, but it was a sea salt lager, which sounds horrendous, but
it was a Messina one, the one with the three-legged logo on it. Yeah, it's nice. When you're in situ in situ,
or we're gonna say when in Rome.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's move on to the next beer. But before we do, this beer is called Still Nut, which I recognize immediately as Silent Night, because one of the few carols that I really enjoyed as a child was Silent Night. But it's also got massively heavy religious overtones in it. So I've asked David if he'll do a little bit of Silent Night to introduce the beer.
All right. Okay. I'm not a religious man, but I love the melody of Silent Night. It has a particularly beautiful little chord change in there that I am totally going to steal for something. Silent night, holy night, down, young virgin, mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild. Sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace.
Thank you, sir. So I did an event recently with Helen Moore Jackson playing a carol which I never heard before, which sounded like a Bond theme. I've sent it to you, the clip. It's an amazing clip. And then after she told me the song was 150 years old.
Right.
And the thing about a lot of carols is their journey. I've also worked with a Ukrainian singer recently who told us that one of the songs that we all recognize, I can't remember the carol off the top of the head, was from a Ukrainian origin. And one of the things I like about carols is they're not all from England, they're from all around Europe and around the world, and they've all got their own stories. But as a child, I'd learned that Silent Night was actually from Germany originally. And if you can sing it in the natural language, it's got an extra passion to it. But it's a beautiful song and a beautiful melody. And what chord are you going to steal from that, David?
Oh, it's this one. It's the it's from the G. Heavenly peace. It's beautiful.
Saying old Tannenbaum next.
Yeah.
So, Darren, I know nothing about this beer. I confess I don't even know the producers, though I did look up what's the translation for the name of the brothers that make this? The Mad Brothers, I think?
Yeah, the Mad Brothers. Yeah, this is a bit of a kind of it's a real kind of beer geeks love a brewery, and yeah, Dadal started off. I think in some countries, in response to trends and things that are going on, breweries kind of come in waves, and Dadal appeared on the scene back in, I think it was 1980, when a lot of the kind of a new wave of Belgian breweries were pushing through. But the interesting thing about Dadal, I think, was, yeah, they hit the scene with a whole range of beers that were just artistic and different, idiosyncratic, lots of big words, which I don't know the meaning of. But the beer was just super different and super artistic. And after all these years, they're still going and they're still making these different beers. I suppose in the same way that Sierra Nevada are still making relevant beers in their own field, Dadal are still doing that. And Still Nat really encompasses that for me, because it just seems different every year. It's strange. It's kind of drinkable. You can't really pin a style on this beer. It's kind of like a big kind of Belgian strong blonde, but there's other things going on there. I liken the flavors in Still Nat more to like a kind of a dessert wine almost, like a Sauterne or a Monbazillac. You've just got lots of kind of strange candied flavors in there, something a little bit tropical maybe. It's just such a different beer that people seem to get something different from. I chose this one because it's one of my favourites. I hope it doesn't split opinion too much because it's a bit too different. But I love it to pieces just because it is so refreshing and a change of pace at Christmas, really.
Well, without doubt, this is one of the most different beers I've ever tasted without being eccentric either. It's not mad like the beer you mentioned earlier we had for the tasting, which was like a sugary treacle. This is still a beer, but I do get the sauternes in it because obviously we both worked in the wine trade, so we know a bit about wines, and I definitely get the sauterne in it.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, nice.
The almost like the winter fruits underneath it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very good. Yeah, awesome. Yeah,
I'm getting that.
Because my etymology brain, Darren, what's the origin of the hops? Where does the plant get its name from?
Hops. So yeah, I know the Latin term that's lupulus is all tied in with lupulus being the wolf, due to the aggressive growth of hops and how it kind of takes over and is very vivacious almost.
And then the Middle English, which is very basic, hopping, which means to leap, to dance. And this sort of beer, I think, with a few of these.
Yeah, a few of these. Yeah, yeah. I mean, this again. Yeah, this beer will really creep up on you. It's got a very substantial ABV behind it, but really, it doesn't drink heavy. It's strangely light, and it's a lovely beer to open up after the kind of big Christmas meal. Have a few strong cheeses with, because it just hangs in there. It's just so artistic, and I just love it to pieces every single year. I always grab a couple.
I think you've absolutely hit it on the head. Like, I really want some strong cheese right now. I want something like green and stinky.
Yeah.
To really go with this. It's a very, very classy beer, this. I've got to say, it seems very skillfully woven in the sense that it's strong as hell. Like it's 12%, like it's a very strong beer. But you don't get any of that sort of recoil that you get from some strong beers, where you take a swig and you're like, oh my god, that is strong. I mean, this is as strong as wine, but it's as smooth as anything. It's dangerously drinkable. It's got a lot of flavors, but none of them are hitting you over the head. They're all balanced and like tastefully arranged. To me, it feels like this is an expertly crafted mix, in the same way that for me, like sometimes you listen to a record and you think that is mixed beautifully and all the sounds are there and they're all doing their jobs and nothing's too loud, nothing's too quiet. And the result is that you just get this experience of listening to music. And it's like this with this beer. It's like, it doesn't beg you to think about what you're drinking. You just drink it and you go, that's very nice. I could, I don't have a terribly sophisticated palate like some of the rest of y'all, but I can drink that and kind of go, oh, that's all in there. It's all in there, but nothing's kicking me in the face.
So it's the Beach Boys a beer.
I don't know. I was having a conversation about the Beach Boys. I've got some controversial opinions on the Beach Boys, which this probably isn't the forum.
No, I want to hear because
get into this.
Because I've actually met Brian Wilson, and let me tell you a quick story for me. Our best friend is called Rhonda, who was named after Help Me Rhonda.
Yeah.
And many years ago, when they did the 50th tour, Sasha, for our 30th anniversary, I think it was 25th, brought me tickets to go and see the sound check. And we were allowed to meet the band. And I was leaning on Brian Wilson for about 30 seconds before I realized what I was doing. I had my hand on his shoulder. And I kind of went, oh shit, that's Brian Wilson. Didn't move at all, but literally I had my hand on his shoulder without any intention. I was trying to just balance myself. And then I realized, but I'm desperate to hear your controversial views of the Beach Boys, David.
It's quite simple. I'm just not that into the Beach Boys. And I understand that. I think Brian Wilson is a musical genius. I'll totally give you that. But I think I'm really not a fan of Mike Love. I think the sound.
A lot of people feel that way.
That's different. Yeah, that's fine.
When you get an 80-year-old man.
I think when I hear Beach Boys records, I often find myself kind of just not enjoying listening to them, largely because I find myself. Just the vocal delivery just doesn't please me. I think the harmonies are beautiful, and technically it's incredible, and a lot of the compositional elements are incredibly sophisticated. But just the way that it's arranged, the resulting record, I just don't like it.
The bit I struggle with is saying that, as was then a 72-year-old man, singing songs about being on the beach with girls and eyeing the girls up in the front row. That's the bit I kind of struggle with. It's hard to sing songs like when you're that age with conviction, and he had it with conviction.
I suppose that the most difficult thing in music is aging gracefully, and
the Meatloaf way.
And so, some do it incredibly well. Like for me, like the gold standard is Elvis Costello. I think he's he's getting old he's just classy. He's got a lot of class in growing old, more so than McCartney. I mean, Springsteen is getting to a point now where he's getting old enough that he's going to have to think about how he deals with it, because when he's 90, he's not going to be able to do that knee slide with any conviction. So I think maybe he needs to go with Costello to his tailor, get himself a nice suit made up, and be old with a certain grace and style. But yeah, I think part of it comes from the material. If you're still singing songs about sort of teenage, driving around in your car and macking with chicks in your 80s, then it's just not that appropriate anymore, is it?
Mm.
I think Tom Jones is another one who's stellar quality throughout the years. Still thinks about being a sex bomb, yes, but like his showmanship, that hasn't reduced over time.
The thing about Tom Jones is I'm pretty sure that if he met you, Rosie, he would totally be trying it,
Oh, that's fine.
Regardless of whatever age difference is going on. Like, I mean, I think he talks the talk, he also very much walks the walk.
Walk the walk.
Yeah, so I in that way, he's entirely authentic. Same goes with my old friend Johnny Hallyday.
Yeah.
In his 70s, when I met him, he enters this studio wearing trousers made of alligator, like actual alligator trousers, and he's the only when he was alive, he was the only Frenchman like legally allowed to smoke in any building he wanted to. They basically made an exemption. Like no one can smoke in a building except Johnny Hallyday because he has to smoke all the time in his alligator trousers. And the real deal, he wasn't pretending. He didn't get home and then put his slippers on and his comfy tracky bottoms. Like he woke up every morning, got in his snakeskin trousers, and was a damn rock star. And so he can get away with anything he wants to.
Right. So yeah,
that was a digression. Sorry.
No, a wonderful digression indeed. So yeah, Darren, this is not weird as in the Richter scale, but it's very interesting. And yes, I definitely get the sauternes in it, and the white sugar, and it's a wonderful, wonderful beer. So thank you.
My favorite by far.
Yeah, it's an impressive achievement.
Oh yeah, cheers, guys. Yeah, David hit the nail on the head there massively in terms of comparing it to a kind of a magical composition. But yeah, you just get the sense that the brewers they just know exactly what they're doing, and things all of a sudden just seem to come together seamlessly, no matter how artistic this particular beer is, and really their range of different beers by the Dole. But things just seem to come together for them, and just as different as it is, it's just amazingly drinkable. And it's just on my kind of big eat Christmas list every single year, and every year it's different but the same. It just feels like a long lost relative visiting every year. You don't see, or you kind of don't keep in touch with, but they sit down and you hit it off all over again, and then they go again and come back. It's just, for me, it's like that, really.
I think when you say artistic, yeah, it feels like the work of an artist,
So I've just looked at the chat on the YouTube, and Gina Raymond says that Paul Weller has aged well. Are you a fan of Weller? I mean, I saw the Jam in 79 and 81, and they were angry young men, and two of the best gigs ever. And I hated the Style Council, and I think Paul Weller now is an icon and the Godfather, or whatever they call him. But it's more interesting how he looks. Whereas when I liked the Jam, they were more interested in giving the message to kids. They were the Who of their generation.
I feel like Paul Weller's, if we're talking about aging well, I think he's certainly maintained a certain class and dignity
maintained his dignity, but you kind of home for the angry young man that he used to be, and he's now kind of more respectful. And I met him.
There you go.
I met him actually not to speak to, but I took Duke to Victoria's Festival years ago, and Paul Weller was playing there, and he arrived in his Adidas tracksuit with all these kids, and it was lovely. You've been seeing the father side of him, but I was like, oh, what happens to angry young man who like shout about my generation and stuff
But
like that?
it's not. I honestly think that's it would be inauthentic. I think I mean I feel the same about myself as like I used to write angry young man songs, and you get older and you actually develop a certain perspective and you realize that actually it's. I mean I still write songs that are I suppose political in nature, but you learn to be more I suppose more specific
Yeah.
and more detail oriented
Hmm.
in how you actually describe the issues you're going on about. Like so, when you're young, you yell, "Won't somebody think of the children?" and feel like you're profound. But like if people have said that, it's easy to be angry and to just to shout, "I'm pissed off." Um, and you know which I have done with songs like State of the Union or whatever, which people like and still like now, but 20 years later, I find the songs that I write about politics now are a lot better.
But they're clever as well.
They're much more they're better observed now.
Yeah, you're asking your
They're
audience to think
relevant and they
now
and they
rather
actually
than
make points and relevant observations rather than just being like it's all crap. You know, it's very easy to yell it's all crap.
but it's because you're asking your audience to think now rather than telling them. And that's, Weller was like, it's not fair for us kids. And nowadays, with songs like Shout from the Top, it's actually like looking at politics in a different way. And I think that's really clever and like you did with your economics album, where you took songs that could also speak about the economy, but they also could speak about people and relationships. And
Yeah.
and Costello's probably the best one at doing that, I think, where he's grown as an artist, because I'm a massive Costello fan,
Right.
where he's stayed political but been cleverer with the message.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at his earlier political stuff, it's exactly what I was saying. It was like yelling vitriol because that's what you do when you're young.
Radio. Yeah.
Then the older you get, you still feel the vitriol, but you maybe feel like you might be more eloquent to describe it with more detail and to actually write about the subject rather than just write some visceral reaction to it. And I honestly don't know that one's any better or more impactful than the other, but it does seem that as someone who's similarly getting into my elder statesman years, it does feel more appropriate and more, I suppose, more artistically relevant for me anyway, to be challenging myself to actually write about the subject rather than just being angry and just shouting I'm angry. Because I think basically that's what people 20 years younger than me should be doing right now. They should be writing the angry songs, and maybe they're not, but it's almost not my place to do it.
Talking the next generation, are you aware of a young rapper of your namesake called Dave, sometimes Santan Dave? He won the Grammy for Best Album a couple of years ago.
Did he? No, I don't know.
No, look up Dave and look up Question Time, because it's very much got the critical perspective of modern day politics. In a different style to you, less of a looper, much more poetic, hard hitting diss track.
Oh, actually, no. I think yes. No, I did see. I do know of Dave. I think someone showed me a bit of Dave.
Yeah, if you got the new generation, he's interesting because he's very much a poet first, rapper second.
Yeah.
But he's not afraid to mix politics with mental health.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of the sort of the Pink Floyd era, it's very much tearing down the government, shouting and yelling. But this is actually a bit more of a nuanced, rounded look into actually, do you want to participate in politics and change it? Or are we aware of the cyclical factor that at the end of the day, it's based on class more than anything else? So no matter how much you scream or yell or how much you participate in it, it's never going to change.
So I think it's very interesting to bring up topics like that in music, and I'm glad that people are doing it. Like for me, I did a show a few years back. I was asked to participate in this evening of protest songs, which is totally up my alley. I was like, yeah, of course, I'm down for that. And it was based on this book by a fellow called Dorian Linsky, who's great. It's a really really interesting read. The book's called 33 Revolutions per Minute, and it's based on, each chapter is about a different song, different protest songs, and one
Like
of the
Bob
sorry.
Like Bob Marley or
Yeah. So
Bob Dylan.
it'll be like Blowing in the Wind, and then it'll be like Straight Outta Compton or something. It'll just be like songs that are that are protest songs. And one of them in there is Give Peace a Chance, and I hate that song because it literally admits in the chorus all we're saying is give peace a chance. And like, really? Do you think that like any world leader is going to go, hang on, what? Whoa, why don't we think of giving peace a chance? I was really into this war idea, but actually now I've heard this song, I'm going to give peace, and I just really dislike that song, like for that reason. It's so. I suppose what it does give you is it gives people on protests. It gives people something to sing when they're on a march, I suppose, and in that regard, genuinely, that's a powerful thing. But it's not a clever song, It
gives you Live Aid feels.
There's no insight that goes into Give Peace a Chance.
Yeah, there won't be rain in Africa.
I mean, don't get me started on that song. That song is horrible. That's one of the most horribly badly written songs imaginable.
It's a really good cue.
It's so bad for digging into like Feed the World, but like it's a horrible song. It's a great concept and a wonderful cause, but it's a terrible song.
Right. Well, that gives us to move on now.
Says, yeah, this is where Les goes, "Oh, can you sing this now?" And then
that gives me a chance to move on. First of all, hello to Tom Fitzpatrick, a friend of mine from Eastbourne, a great performer. Tom, I've got some spare beers, so they're coming your way, boy. Artists you can't stand and why? And I'm going to start. I want everybody to name one artist they really can't stand. You have to give a reason. I hate Coldplay. Okay. 2 great albums. They played at Glastonbury and headline for the first time and had the time of their life. And we saw them the very next night. And Chris was going on about, oh, this is the greatest night of my life ever, blah, blah, blah. And then when they played Fix You, I'm looking at it, he's playing like a keyboard and an organ part on his own that are completely separate and he couldn't be done. And then I did some research and they use backing tapes to augment their sound for the benefit of the audience. And then they started writing really shit songs just to raise money. So Coldplay are my like room 10 at the door list. Darren, any band you really hate? I know it's not. Yeah, I know it's not your. Oh, I can't remember his name. Your rapper. I'm a fat. That's it.
Oh, the Scat Man. Yeah, leave him out of it, please. Yeah. Funny enough. I'm trying to rack my brains, but I think I'm going to have to be a bit mean and go Coldplay as well because I do listen. I do listen to a lot of Christmas songs at Christmas time, and the Coldplay Christmas song, Christmas Lights. Out of all the Christmas songs, it starts off just kind of typical Coldplay. It just sounds, it's just very whiny. It actually develops into some nice areas later on and gets a bit kind of drinking song-ish. But just the start, it's just kind of, I wouldn't say depressing, but it just feels like very kind of, I don't know, like self-pity almost. And it just, I don't know, it doesn't really sum up what I want to feel at Christmas time. And it just feels like a little bit of a Coldplay cash-in, really. But yeah, I'm sorry, it's going to be Coldplay for me as well.
You get my vote. So Rosie, before we ask you, can you tell your Chris Martin at Shelter story?
Oh, God. So I came up from Shelter today late, which is why I came to this a little bit late. I'm sorry. So every year, Crisis is very, very generously visited by loads of different celebrities, and they come in 2 sort of formats. So the Ellie Goldens of the world will come with a big repertoire. She'll take 20,000 selfies, do 1 cup of tea, and then post about her humanitarian awareness and how we've got to be really aware of the homeless this time of year. Only Christmas. Like the rest of the year, just like screw them. The best thing is that last year she donated some of her own clothes, 10 different pairs of size 6 leggings, because that's what homeless people need, and 10 of her personalised perfume, which you can't give them because it contains ethanol. But yeah, some other them will come, like it's George McKay from the fantastic movie 1917. turned up with his mum and his sister. We weren't aware who was coming in advance. He mopped floors, he cleaned toilets, very lovely. And Chris Martin came one year. Again, we were aware he was coming, but it was very low key. So low key that we couldn't find him for quite a while. We just kept saying, where is he? Has he not shown up? What's going on? Eventually found him in the dining room wearing a hoodie and a ratty sort of hat, and trying to protest to the volunteer, like, no, all the soup is free. Don't apologise, you can have second, you can third, but please have some soup.
Didn't I hear that someone thought he was a homeless guy himself?
Yeah, that's my point. We found him being corralled into having some soup because they just thought he was a really shy guy who's new to the streets. But he was really nice. It was the day after George Michael's death. George Michael, yeah. So he was absolutely unashamed of. He didn't sing his own songs. It's pretty much what the guest wanted to sing.
He would sing George them. Michael songs either. The Brits proved that. I mean,
yeah, I know, but he was very low key for a celebrity, which is very nice. But no, we've got I can't tell you a minor sneak peek who's coming in tomorrow. We've got Annika Rice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Ellie Goulding's back. Sophie Deriso from Gangs of London. Yes, we've got quite a few good people coming in tomorrow morning.
So, David, I'm going to put you on a spot. Which band stroke artists can you not stand and why?
I mean, I have a real problem with that. There are certain voices, the tone of which really bother me. I mean, to be fair, Chris Martin is one of them. I just don't like the sound of his. I don't like him as a singer. Others include Rihanna. Like, the tone of her voice is brutal, like, very unpleasant to me. I used to have a real problem with Janet Jackson as well. Just I think there was a song she had. She had a song called "Whoops Now," yes. And like, I just hated that so much. And it would be excruciating. Like, if ever it was on the radio a lot, sort of at the time. And I suppose I must have listened to the radio back then. And yeah, if ever I heard it, I would find myself. I would literally put my fingers in my ears and run towards the radio so I could hit it and turn it over. So Janet and Rihanna and Coldplay. I really hate Kings of Leon as well. Yeah. I never liked them. Like, you know, like they were good and then they sold out. Like, I hated them when they were good as well. So
I've got a quandary for you. My answer is a bit sort of Harvey Dent. I love the Boomtown Rats, but I can't stand Bob Geldof. Explain that to me.
Okay.
See, when I was at school in the sixth form, I was introduced. So I was very much in the more of a smooth performer. There was one side there'd be Barry Manilow and Chris de Burgh, and then the next side there'd be the Boomtown Rats and lots of punk bands. And someone brought the Boomtown Rats in the first album before I really knew who Bob Geldof was. I loved it. So I was like living on an island, and I just like there's such energy in the music. Bob Geldof's okay, you know, but I get that. Anyway, should we do the last beer, Darren? You want to tell us about the Belgian brewer Beer Noel?
Yeah,
Yes.
Brand, never heard of them.
Yeah, sorry guys, it's a beer I've had a hand in doing again, but yeah, I don't want to be like the shameless promoter, and who knows, you might not like it, but that's fine. You can say I don't mind, but yeah, hopefully it's, you know, I've had some big beers already, and hopefully this stands up. But yeah, it was I always love making Christmas beer, and I think the Belgians make some of the best Christmas beer in the world. It's not really a style, but it's just, I don't know, in my corny head, and so when now I actually brew with a Belgian. It was like, you know, we've got to do a Christmas beer this year, and we spoke about it for a while and what we wanted to do, and we went on the side of strength, but we brewed it way back in early September to really let things mellow out, and it was really about adding an addition to the beer that would complement the beer as a whole but not dominate. So we thought carefully, and we chose brewer's licorice and added that late into the boil. in quite a modest way, just to really accentuate the flavours that were already there. And yeah, I think we've put together quite a nice, I don't know, quite a smooth little kind of seasonal offering that's quite easy to get on with. But yeah, as usual, I'm super interested to see what people think. Feedback from where we sell at the tap room has been really positive. But I'll be really happy to hear what other people have to say, really.
So you say it's a little bit, but it's 11%. That's quite a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. It just for me, it's never drunk as a very heavy beer. That big kind of time it's spent in the fermenter conditioning away has mellowed the beer quite dramatically. And just the licorice, just to just as the thing that Belgians, as I ramble away, I think the thing that Belgians do the best is pick out different flavorings or adjuncts that just kind of tie into the beer really well, or pull forward a particular element. I think one of the beer styles that encapsulates that is like Belgian style wheat beer, which has coriander and orange peel in there, and it just brings everything together nicely. And lots of other Belgian beers have a little subtle addition of herbs, typically coriander. But yeah, I hope I think it's a nice beer, but I hope you guys think so too.
You've got a hit here.
Oh, cool.
I think it's lovely. I mean, it's similar to the Stille Nacht. It feels incredibly like drinkable despite its punch.
Mm.
It doesn't give you a slap around the face and grab you by the throat and say I am a strong beer. It's like it's smooth and classy and very nice.
Oh, cool.
Have you ever tried Darren Damson gin?
Yes, yeah, I have in the past. Yeah,
It's got the same sort of underlying fruity taste, but without punching you in the face. It's sort of like dances on the top of your tongue.
Oh, that's a nice way. Yeah, yeah.
I recently was in Northern Ireland with our mutual friend Jared Dickinson, and we did a show somewhere, and the fellow who put the show on, he made this like homemade like moonshine, pochine, this Irish moonshine stuff, and it was weirdly delicious, like incredibly strong, like rocket fuel. This stuff. There's something in this that reminds me of that, which is a really good thing. I got to tell you, it was like made of pears and sloe berries and it was very kind of like authentic and rustic and warming and pleasant and homely in a way that this is. But there's something in the mixture of flavors that really reminds me of that.
Oh, cool.
But Darren, is there some kind of candy sugar in there or something? Is it that kind of flavor I'm getting, or toffiness, or?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, certainly with all the dark malts that we use, you get a kind of nice, like a caramel flavor and a dark caramel flavor anyway from the dark malts. But we also use Belgian dark candy sugar in this, which is a quite hard to source little ingredient. And again, it just accentuates the kind of everything that's going on malt wise. But the candy sugar itself doesn't actually add a kind of body to the beer almost, so it keeps things quite almost light on its toes. And we wanted to make a beer that has a nice flavour but isn't too heavy, because some beers can be just a bit too chunky. And yeah, and the licorice as well, hopefully just interwoves quite nicely in the beer and just makes like a nice little kind of, for 11%, I think it's quite oddly sessionable, really. You can keep going back to it, having a sip, and then when you go to stand up, you realise your legs have just gone, and you end up just lying there on the living room floor, which is fine, which is what I do most nights.
I'm actually really happy with all the beers tonight, because like none of them have been those, like whenever I've done these Beercasts, there's always been like one or two beers where I've been like, oh, that is a madman, like that is. Like it's chewy, it's hard to drink. Whereas all of the ones tonight have been like really very, like I say, I guess sessionable would be the word, but yeah, but very drinkable. I wanted to ask Darren, like, when you say it's a Christmas beer, is there an industry accepted definition of what that is, or is it just sort of a matter of a brewer's interpretation of what makes something Christmassy? Is it like the attempt to make beer that tastes like Christmas cake?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and it's the question certainly when I'm up at the tap room and I say, "Oh, we've made a Christmas beer this year," and so many people go, "Oh, but what's a Christmas beer?" And then I just kind of, I don't know, I go into kind of a long kind of rant of whimsy, really. But I mean, there's Christmas beers out there which are just kind of, I don't know, they kind of latch onto the name. Christmas, and I mean, well, yeah, poor old Brew York. I don't want to bash those because they use the Christmas spices really quite well. But I don't know really. It's our Christmas beer. It was just about having something that was strong but drinkable, something that just really makes just a nice kind of cozy drinking experience. But then it's so hard. But then you've got Sierra Nevada, their celebration IPA, which is nice because it does feel like a nice celebration beer as kind of Christmas and the festive period should be. So yeah, it's difficult really. I think people would just tune off if I carried on talking about it. But it's just, I don't know. I think for me, the idea of this Christmas beer was just for me talking with Nick and going, really just thinking about what beer we'd like to drink at Christmas.
Yeah.
And so we made that interpretation. And I hope and I think a lot of brewers do that, all these different breweries over the world, really. They think, what beer would I like most to drink with family or with friends at Christmas time, something to make me feel good and just, happy. And that's what we've tried to do. And I'm just, I'm super glad that everybody here likes it. Just to make a good feel good beer, no matter what color, what strength, what flavoring you've added or what not flavor you've added, just something that you want to drink at Christmas time, really.
So
I'm just glad you've done more than like I feel like the Harvey's Christmas Ale that they make in the corner from here. I feel like they just get whatever kit you get for like making mulled wine, and they just chuck that in.
Yeah.
It's like mulled beer.
Yeah, and then just jingle bells, festive label out the door.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Me, the upshot is, do you feel like you'd want to be by a fireside drinking it? And this beer, definitely. I feel like the only thing missing is the fireside, Darren. Right, there's one more little discussion point before I ask David to finish off with a last song and plans for 2024. So this year's been a tough year for many. I think.
Can I just let you know my plans for the next 30 seconds?
Go on then.
Mm-hmm.
That is to run to the toilet because this beer's going clean through me. So hold the thought. I'll be back in just a sec.
We'll see.
Hold the
So
fort.
You talk about something fun.
so
What's your favourite and least favourite things about David Ford?
his bladder control's terrible. It really is.
Yeah,
it's like the Duke specials.
These toilet breaks, they're getting a bit much.
Very
Darren,
demand, bit of a diva.
David particularly doesn't like doing encores because of the fabrication of them, because encores are generally planned and augmented and they're going to be there. So he likes to perform a set. Duke Special has encores, so he can go and do a wee in the break. So he'll get to a certain point, and you know that when he's gone off the stage, he's gone rushed into the toilet. And it's a thing. 2023 has been the year that most people I've spoken to has been the year to get through. It's been a tough year economically. Lots of stuff going on in people's lives and stuff like that. Made things quite difficult for some. And I said, me personally, my anxiety levels are shot through the roof this year. And it's next year, my goal is to look at doing more things that give me more pleasure and cut out some of the things that give me more stress. Excuse me. And drinking beer certainly gives me more pleasure and less stress. So Rosie, what's you going to do next year that's different?
Give you less stress because all your children will be over 30.
Yeah, yes. You don't give me stress, sweetheart, but you will be 30 next year, which is like, my youngest child is 30 years old. It's going to be hard to comprehend.
you know those cheesy letters. What would 30-year-old you benefit from knowing that you know now?
Yeah. Go on, what would you benefited from?
Well, I think I'm not 30 yet, so I'm curious what you would tell your 30-year-old self. And the same for you, Darren. What would you tell your 30-year-old self?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think the biggest thing in my life now that I don't know. I don't. Yeah, this is gonna. I don't know how to put this best, but I almost. I don't know. I just don't care anymore. You know. I've got to that. I've got to that
What, Darren,
stage.
what have I missed? What don't you care about enough anymore?
So I'm turning 30 next year, David. I'm curious.
So you're turning what now?
30 next year. So Darren, when he was 30, he would have been still working at Waitrose. He would have been not married and not had kids yet. Is that correct, Darren?
That's correct.
Dad at 30 had 3 kids and had been married for a few years at that point.
Still the same woman.
Curious at knowing what you know now, being of a slightly more experienced generation. What would you go back in time and tell yourself at 30?
To be honest, by the time I was 30, I think I'd had most of my traumatic learning things. I feel like I largely had done my foolish things and matured a bit by the time I was 30, I think. But if to go back in time, I think I would tell myself to just calm the hell down and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a far better way than me just saying, "Oh, I just don't care anymore." That's a
But
a
there's
far
a lot
better
to be said about Darren, because you will care, but it's ditching the bits that bring you down, the bits that you worry about.
Yeah,
and I was saying tonight to Session with the Facebook thing going down that, you know, we might lose an audience, but at the end of the day, I care whether it's one person watching, 100, or the most we have is 1,200 people. You know,
Yeah.
It's ditching the worry aspect that goes with it. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I find really hard as a person, to stop worrying about things that I shouldn't be worrying about, because I know that when I get there, I'm capable of doing the job.
Yeah.
But I worry so much in advance about things going wrong, and that's what I'm going to change. So the question, David, was any plans for 2024? Anything you're going to change?
Actually, nothing. I have nothing planned for 2024, which kind of was the plan to not plan anything. I have no tours, recording, anything booked for 2024, which I feel really positive about. I don't love the pressure to make new stuff all the time, because it's what you do, because it's your job. Like I'm a little bit unorthodox in my career as a musician, in that, like, I just hate the idea of having a career in music. It's incredibly boring to me. I think music is fascinating, and making things and creating stuff is wonderful. But, like, you know, getting paid for it is boring and like ugly and a bit uncomfortable. And it seems to me that, like, lots of people really care about that side of thing. Not just musicians, but like audiences. Like, really, like, it used to be that people would, if people came up to me after a gig and wanted to, like, ask me a question, they used to ask me things about, like, you know, my guitars or my pedals, or like a line from a song. Nowadays, like, the only thing people want to talk about is whether I hate Ed Sheeran for some reason, and whether I hate Spotify, or what I think about, you know, the new Facebook algorithm. It's like, I don't care about any of that. That's not like, that's not the reason you start playing music, is because you're interested in Spotify's, like, streaming rates. It's like, I just don't care. It's so uninteresting. So anyway, that's just my way of saying I have no particular specific plans. One on my vague long list for 2024 is I'm really keen to try and open a music venue in Eastbourne. It's a difficult thing to do. There are a lot of things to consider. You can't just sort of go ahead and do it. There are no places currently on the market that would suit it. So I'm still hoping that a building will become available that will house such a wonderful thing as a music venue for our town. But yeah, other than that, I'm looking forward to finding a job and doing some work for a change, which is something I've not done in 24 years. But it's going to be interesting. Character building.
So, Darren, first of all, thank you to you for being a good friend and for choosing these wonderful beers.
No, thank you, Rose. Cheers.
Rosie, my gig buddy, my daughter, I love for always being there. David, for providing such wonderful music. And can I ask you to close the evening by playing a song of your choice?
My choice?
Yeah, you get a choice this time.
Oh, well, that's
unusual, isn't it?
I wasn't prepared for this. Do you have any choices?
Oh,
Probably what's festive.
well, I know what's Rose's favorite, and it's kind of Rose's favorite is St. Peter.
Yeah, but that's a little bit maudlin for a festive one. What about something a bit more sort of upbeat?
What about Decimate? Go on, Decimate.
I can do St. To be honest, I'd rather do St. Peter than Decimate. Truth be told. What better at this time of year than to do essentially like an anti-Christian song?
It's like if like Tim mentioned, White Wine in the Sun. It's not quintessentially the Christmas values, but he makes it his own in such a way that it is a modern Christmas tune.
So I'm going to mute everybody now and say thank you to everybody for listening. Thank you, David, particularly for joining us. It's such an honor to have you on board. And to everybody listening, I wish you a Merry Christmas and peace with your family.
Buy some Belgian Brewers beer.
Nice. Thanks, everyone.
Everyone come together, making no kind of sense. And these thoughts that I cling to, they're gonna harm my defense. Well, I'll throw rocks at the devil with my faith wearing thin, but I won't scream down St. Peter when he don't let me in. I will work like a pack horse every hour of the day, and I will drink like a preacher, oh, make these spirits go away. I will sing like an angel with an ear for a sin, but I won't scream down St. Peter when he don't let me in. So when I'm gone, will you miss me? Yeah, I'm sure that you will. When I'm far from the terror and the lies and the kill, but there is nothing so deadly as the forces of right, or some fool with a shotgun in a house painted white. So ain't it hard now, my brother, to try and do what you should, when the shameless and the wicked, they dress the same as the good? My intentions are honest, though my chances are slim. So I won't scream down St. Peter when he don't let me in. So everyone come together, making no kind of sense. Yes, and these words that I cling to can only harm my defense. I've embraced imperfection. It's alright not to win. So I won't scream down St. Peter when he don't let me in. Yeah, I won't scream down St. Peter when he don't let me in.
Thank you, David.
Amazing.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Happy New Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Papa Kumbo.
Season's greetings.